Ready? Good evening, everyone. Tonight is the November 22nd AHRB meeting. We have about 4 items on our agenda tonight, starting with 83 Stanley Avenue.
David Rebecca, can you hear us?
Yep. How's it going, everybody?
Hi, how are you?
Good. I don't know if there's someone in the audience named Shiva. He's also with Tesla. I don't know if he's joined yet.
I don't see anyone named Shiva.
Okay.
Yet.
Okay, so please introduce yourself and, describe the changes or the application we know already. So just walk us through the changes that you're proposing.
Okay. Can I share my screen or?
Yes, please.
Yes,
Please do.
Okay.
Good evening.
Oh, so we've got the construction drawings. This is dated revision 4, 11/17/21. These were updated last week for requested changes. And we also have updated photo sims, which were submitted to the board at the end of last week. So basically, based on the information we got from the last hearing, and you'll have to excuse me, I know I hadn't been involved with the hearing before. Jesse had a prior engagement tonight, so I'm stepping in, and Shiva as well when he can join. Basically, it was requested that we remove any and all landscaping from this easement here. So that was the case, and we kind of basically just kind of refinagled our landscaping to give as much screening as possible from the road, while staying out of the easement along the side here. Really, that's the only major change. I know there was, and we can discuss this morning, there was discussion around the single phase transformer. I can basically relay what Jesse had said prior in his email this morning.
Great. So since it's been in front of us a few times, I guess everybody's familiar with this application. I understand that you removed the trees that were in the easement, correct?
That's correct.
And the second issue is that there is no work done on the easement whatsoever, including wiring or fencing or nothing underground. There is no work on the easement, correct?
So the only thing that will need to change is our secondary conductor running from the transformer to the equipment up here in this back region here. We would just have to relocate that, and that's no problem. Jesse had said that on his call today. We'll just have to route that along the area where our charge posts are here to get it out of the easement.
You say the secondary. Can you describe what why?
Basically, the utility power will come into this step-down transformer, and I see Shiva joined here. The power will come into the step-down transformer, and then from there, the secondary conduits. So I believe it's 2 conduits, and I can double check. Give me one second.
That's fine. That's fine. So
Okay.
if we put the approval subject to relocation of the secondary conduit.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep, we can run it.
And leaving the single transformer box.
Yep, no problem there. And Jesse was going to speak with his contact at the utility just to confirm that he's got no issues leaving it on site. But yeah, like Jesse explained, in his email earlier, it's to stay and it'll be, to the same use that it is today, and for the agreement that you guys have in place.
Okay, and then once the secondary wires are moved, out of the easement, you will have no work on the easement whatsoever, correct?
That's correct. So you can see
Okay.
here in the red, that's what it would, that's the direction it would take.
Okay.
All right, so just a general question. Since we removed the screening, the landscape screening from the easement due to objections from the neighbor, my question to you is a conceptual question. Can we swap the location of the transformer with the utility, the T-tap junction box?
So
And the rationale, the reason is because the transformer box is 6'6" height. And the other one is lower. So whatever is closer to the street may be lower in height. And the higher massing will be behind the screening. That's a swap, let's say. Is that possible?
I think the only issue, I believe we've had to land the transformer outside here because in this area, I think it's overhead, and I don't believe the utility allows us to put the transformer underneath any canopies or anything. I would have to double check with Jesse, but I believe that this transformer has to be out.
That may be a code issue.
Yeah, okay.
Right.
Paul?
No, I think you resolved the issue that the neighbor had, and I'm perfectly okay with the proposal as it is.
I think it looks good. The trees that are on the street side sufficiently block if they're tall enough, and no objections.
Okay. And
I'm good, and I just wanted to thank the building department for carrying through and enforcing the easement requirements that are set forth, because
okay, so
that's why it's in front of us again.
any neighbors? Okay, so we move to, make a motion to approve this application, subject to the relocation of the secondary conduit running on the easement. Second, leaving the single transformer box in place. And third, a statement from the applicant that no work will be performed on the easement whatsoever. Okay. So we have a second. All seconds, all in favor? Approved. Thank you. Okay. Next item on the agenda is 243 Judson Avenue.
Could I ask a quick question before? Sorry, I don't want to interrupt, but
Go ahead.
just for moving forward towards permitting, is there anything that can we just submit updated drawings and that'll move us towards getting the building permits, or is there any additional items that we need?
Actually, you have to submit the plans with the notes that we described with the contingencies or the, that we discussed, and please coordinate it with John.
Okay, will do. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Have a great night, everybody.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, good. Next item is 243 Judson.
Hi.
Hi. Can you state your name and?
Yes,
walk
I'm
us-
Laurel Gaffney. I'm from Matthew Cordone Architect, and I'm here to representing the 243 Judson.
So basically, yeah, can you want to share the screen? Can you do that?
Sure. Mhm. Okay, everybody can see it?
Yeah.
Okay, so at the last time we were in front of you guys, you asked us to change the front windows on the addition here and to lower the eave. We did that. I matched, as you can see on this side, I matched the eave height with the existing front, because that's about all I could really do. And I changed the front windows, made them smaller, made them more similar to the existing front. I also added mullions into this window, which didn't have them before because it's the only new one on the side. On this side, I also put mullions into the upper windows in the bedroom and into this back window on the mudroom. And then you can see interior here, the sloped, the eave forced me to go to a different type of door inside here. Before we had some French doors, and now I just have a single with a side light. And I don't know if I think that was everything we talked about.
Laurel, I'm here too.
Hi.
Hi, sorry, I had some technical difficulties, but yes, I am Matthew Cordone. Laurel is my associate, and she gave a really spot on scenario of what we're doing here and how we are trying to work with the AHRB. I personally feel that this is a strong move, and I do appreciate the AHRB's board comments and recommendations. And I think we have a really good building here.
Okay, Matthew, I'll start and then, comments, and I thank you because it really looks a real improvement to what was before. And now it looks like a very elegant addition. I just want to share with you if in the future, if you want to do a shared dormer and gain some room, you can by ganging the two windows and just moving them up, but that's up to you. This meets my expectations, and it's a good looking addition.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Dave?
No comments.
No comments. Brandon?
No, I think the changes were good.
Is that good? Okay, so thank you for also correcting the re-elevation, and I make a motion to approve it as submitted. Seconds. Brandon seconds. All in favor? Thank you. Good luck.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I appreciate all your time.
Yeah,
you.
me too. Thanks.
Next item on the agenda is 253 Judson Avenue.
Suzanne, you want me to start? You want me to say something? Or?
Yeah, I thought we were waiting for Christina. She should be joining as well. Do you want to?
I just want to say hi to the board. I haven't seen you in a while, so.
Hey, Michael.
Sorry, sorry, Shamita couldn't be here. She's actually in Italy with her family, so.
Right. She will be missed.
I think
So-
Christina is here. Yeah.
Hi, good evening, everyone.
Christina.
We're delighted to be able to work on this house for Michael and Shamita. And as you know, there was a previous design that you saw at your at an AHRB meeting, and the board came to the site to look at the existing conditions. We took a really hard look at the design to see how we can make improvements and respond to the comments that the AHRB made at the meeting, the previous meeting. So what we're going to do is show you the latest set of drawings. I want to ask you, Suzanne, is this as large as it can be? Maybe it's my screen. Okay.
It looks good on our end.
Yeah, I can go full screen. There we go. That's as big as it
Okay,
gets.
I think it's fine. Thanks.
And I can zoom in whenever.
So I'm here with Suzanne Levine. She's the lead designer, and she has really looked hard at how we can improve upon a lot of the ideas for this house. A lot of the ideas we thought were really great, especially in terms of the floor plan. But we felt that it needed a certain kind of coherency and some cohesiveness to pull the design together. So this is just a 3D view of the new design, showing the type of landscaping we have in mind, which is going to be very lush, and with a house is going to be sort of surrounded in what will look like a beautiful garden with wooded trees, nice woods behind the house. I think we can go back to the 3D. I think we're going to first start with showing you the changes that we have made to the elevation of the facing the street. What we've done is we've come up with a scheme that uses different shades of a kind of a limestone colored stucco, and also some actual very simple limestone material in different areas. We've changed the design so there is now a symmetry at the front entrance. So the front entrance is now the most important focal point when you come up to the house. We eliminated the tower, and we introduced a lower roof line that wraps around the house. This will help to mitigate the bulk and give it a little more of a cozier and pedestrian type scale. We also came up with a common window treatment so that all the windows have 4 panes. Around the entry, we have smaller windows that are perfectly symmetrical, but then we branch out to different types of sizes of windows that work with the function of the rooms. We also took the big gable that was in the front at the garage, and we now have made that a very quiet element tucked under a lower roof line. As you know, the room to the right is the garage. And so now the garage has a very low profile, very unimportant for this facade. And the gable that we did retain is that gable at the studio, the media room, which is on the left. And every time we do have a gable, we have a very minimalist break board. And all the windows, I think, are going to be black aluminum clad. We have a walnut front door, and we have different accents, as you see, as we'll show you as we go around the elevation of some wood elements and also some stone. I don't know if you want to, yes, Suzanne, thank you. Why don't we go around the house? So as we turn around the corner of the house, we have a walnut stained wood garage doors. This is our wood element to give some relief to the light grayish white or driftwood white, driftwood gray type of stucco. We have an accent to the right of a very subtle limestone. And then we have a few elements, like we have a vertical element, which will be an artisan flush tongue and groove, or I think it's actually
shiplap,
yeah, hardy plank, which is painted, and that would be like a warm gray color. And down below the east elevation, as we turn around the house, we have a break in the elevation here with a tall 2-story piece. This is our above the main living room with doors out to the patio. And we are giving this a treatment of a very subtle limestone finish. I think if you could, can you blow this up, Suzanne?
Yeah,
Because I'm not sure if they can see that.
I have to get out of.
Okay. It still might be hard to read, but it's okay. What we're trying to do is mix a limestone, a very flush and subtle looking limestone with the stucco, which is really just about the same color. So we have these subtle textures going on. And then we break with a few verticals, like we're here by the breakfast room. And a second floor above, we have the hardy plank painted flush siding. And all the windows back here have the same idea of the 4 panes. Even the side door have 4 panes, very similar proportions. And wherever we have sliding doors, we have bigger panes. The studio doors are an exception. That's because there's going to be large pieces of artwork that need to go into these doors, which is why they're larger than the other doors. And then we have, as an accent, our wood details. We have a trellis over these doors. These side doors are a walnut colored stain. And then we have some cedar planters and to the right that are also very similar color, walnut colored stain. In a few areas, we're also going to break up the roof. It's an architectural fiberglass shingle, but we have a few sections. We have a low slope roof, and we're planning to have a gray colored aluminum standing seam roof. And yeah, Suzanne's pointing out, and just in these little small areas where we have the need for kind of a low slope, we wanted to just have a little bit of metal to break up that big hip roof. I also wanted to point out that we changed the roof lines quite a bit as we went around the house, so that the main roof is a hip roof, and there are just exceptions to break it up. The gables, one in the front, one in the back, with a very subtle rake board and detailing at the end of that gable. Now on the north elevation, this is the elevation that we have, which has sliding doors facing a courtyard. And again, the doors are given a very simple treatment, no montants, for the sake of the view. And then all the windows have 4 panes, very similar in proportion. So there is now more of a continuity with the windows. And then we have a vertical here with the hardy plank board, just to break up the mass of all the stucco walls. I'd like to show you also the site plan, just to let you, well, maybe this is more logical. Yes, Suzanne, thanks. These are our inspiration photos. We just wanted to share this with the board. Michael and Shamita actually sent us some of these images, and we were so inspired by the idea that we could have a stucco building with some combining hip and gable roofs, but have a kind of a simplicity of detail, so that the openings are very crisp and windows are dark clad with limestone lintels above and stone sills. And as you see around the entrances, there's a very subtle limestone surround, which is actually what we want to do on the inside of the recessed porch. And I think all these ideas are sort of some of, and even though the image on the right, on the top right, is the idea of combining a little bit of wood, you know, just as a break from the stucco, which we have in our, we have a wood ceiling, cedar ceiling on the, in the porch. And we also have a little bit of cedar in the planters and of course at all the doors for the house. And if Suzanne, can you go in close, because I just wanted the board, this probably image shows the type of limestone that we have in mind is something like this, very subtle. So we have at the front porch wall and on the side of the house is a section, and then on the back, the two-story piece with the gable will have this kind of treatment. It's very subtle, so it's very smooth, kind of modern type of detail, but it will be stone. And very similar, almost the same color as the stucco. So maybe you can go to the next slide, Suzanne, unless you have anything to add. I also just want to point out the site plan that we did change the shape of the house, and we reduced the footprint slightly, and we reduced the impervious surfaces to a great degree. I think we reduced like 2,000 square feet. So right now the house is meeting the zoning code in all respects. This diagram is showing that the original house, the first design that you saw had a different shape, and the areas that you see that are in pink, we took away, and then we added the areas in blue. And the reason why we're showing you this, because the house changed in shape by aligning the walls in the front, we were able to make the big garage, or what looked like a large mass for the garage, kind of recede and just become part of the building, get absorbed by the house. And this also gave us a little wider side yard and a deeper rear yard setback. Also in case, I'm not sure if the ARB is looking at these items, but we changed the driveway, which we'll show you at the end, so that we move the driveway away from the steep slope. So there'd be fewer retaining walls and lower retaining walls in the front. This is just so the driveway fits the topography better than it had previously. And those are, I think you've seen the photos of the property that we have here. We've done all our coverage calculations now that all the impervious surfaces meet the code. As you can see, there's a long driveway now, and I think we're keeping the curb cut exactly where it is. And we're making less of a dramatic change to the driveway just because of the need to reduce the impact on steep slopes and this little hillside which is on the south side here. So let's go to the next slide, please. Not this one, not this. We also we prepared a streetscape to show how the new design will fits next to the neighboring houses. We did about 8 or 9 houses along one side of Judson, and then we also took the profiles of the houses on the other side. And as you can see, just visually, 253 is not, within the range of the heights and the lengths of some of the houses on the street. And we also did a calculation of the context-based height limits, and we were able to confirm that the new design will fit within the set limits default, and then also within the average of the eve heights and the ridge heights in the neighborhood. So the average is, like, for the ridge height is 32.8, and we're at 29.1. Average ridge is 22.7, we're at 21.3. So we're under that. And then we're far under the set limits default. Next slide, please. This is just to show a complete submission that has the views, photos of neighboring properties and the houses in the area. They're mostly 2-story houses. some with gable roofs, some with hip, Cape Cod with dormers, some colonials, and a few modern houses. So all of them, if you can see in these photographs, most of them have very long driveways on this side of the street. So, which is, so our new design, the new proposal has the long driveway similar to these houses. Next slide, please, Suzanne. This is our sky exposure diagram showing how the house will fit within those limits. We did this for the west elevation and then down below the south elevation. Next slide, please. And then our floor plans, I think what we just like to tell you is we changed the shape but kept the general I guess, concept and general layout of the house, because a lot of it is very, they're really terrific ideas here that the Michael and Shamita had for their house, having this courtyard on one side for a very quiet area and kind of almost like a meditation space, and then opening a house to the back and for the family, where they're going to have a breakfast area and living room open up to a patio and a pool. But what we changed was really to mostly in the front, where we lined up the facade and created a symmetry around the front entrance, made the front entrance a primary focal point, and then made everything else sort of secondary to that. And just went around the house and tried to make give the house a little more cohesiveness. Next slide. Second floor, I think, just changed to tie in with a lot of the ideas for the exterior and make sure that the master worked really well with having windows above, tucked in the gable, the new gable that we're putting here. And there's a nice balance just of the bedroom space, and then the alcove looking down into our two-story foyer, symmetrical with the front door. Next slide, Suzanne. We decided to include this slide just so you can see the difference between the previous design, which is on top, and the new design below. What we did is we did there's a profile down below. We put the profile of the previous design, superimposed it onto the new design. I guess just to show you that we have reduced the height a few feet. We removed that tower. We removed the large gable over the garage. We gave the house a more consistent window treatment, a certain geometry and pattern to the panes that is consistent. We also gave a little bit of a very simple treatment of the gable that we did keep, quieted down and lowered the angle of the roofs. Next slide, please. So here are our final elevations, just in without the color. I probably don't need to go over this again, except to say that the stone that you see here in 2D is too strong. It's just a hatch, but it's not. The color scheme represents more what we're trying to do. So that back wall of that recessed porch area is going to be that limestone. And I think we covered the design of these facades and the color schemes. Same here in the back facade, you see the stone, but it's going to be very quiet, so you wouldn't really read those joints as being so strong here. We also included our exterior lighting layout that we submitted to the planning board. Just wanted to share with you some of the lights we're planning to use: indirect lighting sconces that are backlit, and very subtle landscape lights and recessed lights on the outside of the house. Next slide, Suzanne. And this is our latest landscape plan, just to show you how we have changed the driveway. A lot of the ideas here are just to soften the landscape design and have it, have paths that wrap around the house and give it a very kind of, I guess, lush kind of feeling, and not to have a big lawn at all, but just to have lots of plants, especially on the north side, which is across from the courtyard. And then on the right, we're having a privacy hedge along where the pool is.
It's the last one.
I think, is that the last slide?
Yeah,
Yes. Maybe
that's
we'll
it.
go back and land on the color scheme.
Yeah.
And see if the board has any questions.
No, I think that's very clear. Thank you, Christina. And thank you, Michael and Shumita. At least now we have a house. So let's look at the house. But I'm glad that a lot of improvements were included. And that's it's a very nice scheme, and let's discuss it. First of all, I want to say that Dipti, I missed you on the other two applications, but you're welcome to join us. I know
I'm here, and I did unmute myself.
Okay.
And I did want to say hi, Christina. Hi, Michael.
Hi, how are you?
This is certainly a much, a big improvement on what we did see before. And I think making that courtyard bigger with what you have designed, even with the landscape, is going to be a much nicer and useful courtyard, Michael, than what you had before, because the one before was much smaller and much narrower. So certainly a big improvement. And I do understand about the line weights on your limestone. So I'm glad you showed us those pictures, because I did have that question earlier when I looked at the drawings. I said, my goodness, but I think that this is great. And thank you for the presentation.
Okay.
I think it's a beautiful job. I think it's an extraordinary transformation from where you were previously. It's very calming. It's in alignment with the precedents that the owners were looking for. I think lowering that gable and changing the roof line on the garage and recentering the focus on the front door is a beautiful resolution. And I also think having the lower roof on the media wall with media room is, gives it a little bit of prominence, but it's not overpowering. Overall, and I agree with Dipti about the courtyard. It's a much more reasonable size space on the left side of the plan. Overall, it's just very, very appealing.
Yeah, I mean, I did have a couple of questions on the courtyard. What is the garden area? From the drawings, it looks like there's a fence proposed. Is that correct? No, there's a separate fence element that's called out on the site plan. Because the reason I ask is, I mean, it's unique and it looks like it will be beautiful, but beautiful to something that and I'm looking at your S1 drawing of the site plan, which showed.
Yeah.
So there's a fence with a gate and some other items that I didn't see any detail on. Can you explain a little bit more about what's going to enclose that area and what that looks like?
Yeah, I think we have it's a cedar fence wrapping around a 6 foot, probably 6 foot cedar fence. We have it on the elevation. Get over here. I think the idea is to have a slatted fence solid that opens up as we get higher on the fence. We also have an outdoor shower area for the pool, since there's no shower in the powder room at the first floor. So this is really enclosing that courtyard area to make it, feel more like an outdoor room.
So it's 4 foot all the way around.
Four. I think we're showing 4 foot. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, Okay, I just wanted to make sure that it was clear on height at all of the elevations and around that specific space. Um,
I think I'm gonna pull up the color.
On the color scheme,
Yeah,
I
the
think we're
color should
using
be
the
better.
same color that
Yeah.
we are wherever we have our wood elements. And many of them are cedar.
There we
like
go.
the
Yeah, there.
trellis.
And just curious, has there been any further contemplation of the landscaping plan associated with the house as well?
Yeah,
I say that only because we've received specific letter.
Right. So I'll address it after the issue, the letter from the Conservancy
Yes.
Board. But let's look at the house and we address the issues of the trees and and the letter from the Conservancy. Oh,
I think it's a very significant improvement on the initial proposal. I think it's going to be a beautiful house.
so just to wrap up, 3 issues that I have in mind. I still believe that the courtyard should be flipped, should be to the south, not to the north, but I think that said, I think it's a much better to what was presented before and the skill and the care that is put in terms of materials. And I think it's going to be a nicer, much nicer than it was before, and very successful. I'm curious to see it in person if it works. I will assume that these open courtyards usually work better when they have south sunlight, because this is going to be on the dark side of the moon. But that's my opinion. I think I understand the challenges and to make it work on the floor plan. I think it's a great floor plan, great house. So we leave it at that. The second question I have is just I'm curious for you guys to look at the issue of the entryway. Doesn't seem like it's missing 2 columns, but in the porch inside.
I think,
Maybe yes, maybe not.
I think it's,
It's purposely.
it's on purpose. Yeah, to
Okay,
just,
so leave it-
to have the
Leave it at-
alcove ahead, overhead, being the roof or
Because-
the porch, but just, supported, self-supported without, heavy columns at the front to keep it.
No, that's fine. But the argument is that if you have the arch and you stop it at straight and you're missing the bearing, it's at least if you put a bracket.
And maybe we could have a
So,
a
some
beam
brackets,
detail there.
because it's to remove that. I know that you don't need it structurally, but visually, if you remove it, it's kind of a postmodern move that sometimes, anyway, it's your decision. I'm just making a comment. I think a couple of brackets, it could be like an L steel bracket to give this to give the appearance that this is, the curve and the straight line is somehow supported, and the columns or the structure didn't disappear. That's a comment.
Appreciate your comment.
Yeah,
Yeah, we'll give it
that's-
some thought.
Yeah, it's your call. And the last item is, since we are we received this letter from the Conservation Advisory Board regarding the request that they may have to have their own arborist look at the trees that was submitted. And I think that this is beyond our purview, right? So it's something that the applicant should take it with you and how to move forward. But on our end, the house works.
The fence at the pool is the same as the fence at the garden?
Yes, the same style of fence, slat cedar fence.
Nice.
I think we're showing, we may I believe it's also a 4-foot fence. I think that's. I'm just checking, I think so, yeah. It'd be the same material, and the same treatment.
Right, so I think, John, is this application went to, John? Is this application already went to planning board?
It's not approved yet by planning board.
So we should make a
Right,
vote, a
Christina?
recommendation.
Christina,
Yes,
it's not approved by planning yet, correct?
no, we're going back.
Right.
So,
No.
so
Let's
do
go.
we make it?
Pending planning board and
And
conservatory
conservative.
approvals.
So I make a motion that we approve it subject to the approvals of the Conservation Advisory Board and the Planning Board. And I wish them best of luck. Do I have a second? All seconds, all in favor? Deepti, are you voting?
Yes, I.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Michael, and good luck.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so
Uh,
much.
Thank you.
The, John, I forgot to include Deepti on the prior application. Should we open the vote again or
No, because a majority
majority?
voted yes
But
anyway.
but you don't have a
Yeah.
record how Deepti vote.
Yeah,
Deputy-
I did say I in both of them. I don't know
Oh,
if
yeah,
that.
okay.
But you have the
recorded,
mic
but it
off, so
was.
it's good. So just put
All
it.
right.
Okay, so we move on.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
And the last item on the agenda tonight is, oh, by the way, any neighbors for 253 Judson, I didn't invite them to speak. Alyssa, any neighbors wanted to talk? Any comment?
Nobody has their hand raised.
Okay, so we move it. Please let me know if someone wants to talk before we make a vote.
Okay.
Thank you. 156 Palisade Street. Yes.
Sorry. Hello again.
No rest for the weary.
I know. Just a second. I just realized I don't have it up here. A minute. Can everyone see the drawing?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Yes?
we see your email.
See your email.
All right, let me try this again. Sorry. How's that?
Yes, now
Okay,
works.
thank you. Hold on, let me get a better view here. Okay. So we're back with a more, I think, developed set of drawings for 156 Palisades. This is a proposal for 4 units. We have a garage at the lower level and our main entrance. And that leads into an elevator lobby that takes you up to 2 units on the first floor. And then on the second, there are 2 units that are duplexes that have 2 floors each. We had explored different ways to handle this facade, and we did read the design guidelines for Palisade Street carefully. And so we made sure that our main facade is less than 40 feet, which is the, you see the shadow line to the right. There's a main facade that comes out 9 feet from the smaller facade to the right. And when we met, and we also recessed the 3rd floor 12 feet back from these facades so that you can barely see it from the street. The last time we met with the board, we were talking about whether the building could be a little modern. We also talked about mixing up the bays. We actually reduced the size of the bay on the right. We treated the windows a little differently. There's a slightly different pattern, so it's a variation on a theme. We decided to mix in some modern elements so that the lobby has a very distinctive design. So even though it has the ladder design treatment of the paint, it has some larger pieces of glass. And then we have a vertical element, which is our egress stair going up through the building. At the very top floor, we kept it very simple with big sliding doors at each unit with a trellis on top. I'm going to take you through actually the plans to show some of the changes that we made since we last met. Okay, I guess site plan hasn't changed that much. We did shift it back, so we have a 10-foot setback on the south side. So really we needed that to make the drainage work around the corner of the patio. But in general, the footprint is the same. We do have now bay windows on the north and south side, which we felt really broke up the length of the building nicely. Our streetscape is just showing the latest design in the streetscape. As you can see, the top of the parapet at the third floor is not far from the fascia of the house on the right and the eave on the house on the left. These are actually images that we showed you before of how the building fits in the neighborhood, looking down at an aerial view of that neighborhood. We have a landscaping plan that we're working on, that we'll be submitting to the planning board soon, just to show privacy barriers around the patio. And in the back, we have an exterior lighting plan that we added to our submission, just showing kind of a nice modern sconce, very indirect type lighting at the front entrance, and then very minimal type of lighting at other areas around the building. Our floor plans have not changed really much at all. We really worked on the treatment of the facade for the building, except that we did add bays on the north and the side walls of the building, which was really nice. It really helped to break up not only helped on the exterior, on the interior, gave us more interesting spaces, especially on the second floor. So we have like a bay right at the dining area. Roof decks are the same. We just have more developed plans showing where the windows and doors are. And here are our latest elevations, and two without the color, just showing the proportion of the windows. We did extend the roof over the entry to the left, and we have that very handsome 30-inch sconce right underneath it to balance it out. We kind of like the idea of mixing this up a little so that it had some modern elements, but it still had the idea of having cutout openings in the stucco wall. We still have stucco for all our materials, just different shades of gray. And then we're doing a metal panel at the walls of the third floor, glass railing at the very top, metal panel at the stair bulkheads. South elevation, I think we just gave it a little more attention to see how we could tie in make all the windows have a similar vocabulary with the ladder type of pattern of the mountains. The bay window here breaking up the long facade, metal panel at the top. The rear facade also, which is where the building has 3 full stories from grade. We still have 2 stories of stucco, and then the top floor is a metal panel. We are wrapping the corners with glass because it works really well with the layout inside, but it's also kind of replicates the theme of corner glass from the front of the building. This is our north elevation showing the new bay window that we added to break up the wall. This is a longer facade than the other side, so they, a lot of these windows are just, there's a theme of a double casement with a thick mullion between. And that is just a pattern that occurs at all the bedrooms and many of the rooms in the building. And this is our color scheme. So the idea is that there's a very handsome stone wall that we're going to cut out for the entry walk and the driveway. And that will either keep or we'll restore it because it runs all the way along the street. But once you enter that space into the, to get to the new building, we have now a different feeling. We have different shades of gray and stucco. We decided to handle the base with a darker color. The facade to the right is a different shade of gray to the facade on the left. We have our metal panel on top with our trellises hanging from the walls. We also have a roof canopy over the entrance with the same steel brackets hanging, supporting the roof. On our side elevation, you're seeing just different shades of gray with the bay window being a darker shade. We have a little bit of a panel treatment down below just because the bay is actually tying into more private areas down here. Up above, it might not be easy to see, but we have our metal panel breaking up the materials on the wall at the 3rd floor and our glass panels above. A glass railing, I mean. And then I just have this for reference. On the street, there's lots of different materials. There's stucco, there's brick, there's clapboard. And I did bring with me, in case you're interested, the old 3D. We've changed the design of the building, but I just showing it to you to remind you the 3rd floor is tucked way back. And, but it actually, we have, you know, we developed the 2D with the color schemes because it's a more accurate way to really look at proportion and materials. So this is the extent of our presentation, and we're happy to hear any comments you'd like to share.
Yeah, thank you, Christina. Well, we will, I think we have a building that is very elegant and well proportioned. I have a few comments though, but it's looking good. Just to start, Deepti, you want to comment first?
Sure. I do believe that the bay window additions on the north and the south side definitely help break that elevation. I think it's an improvement. It looks great. I think it's a very elegant building. I still have the same comment as I had before, is if you could explore the color combinations of what you have here. I just think that the building looks cold. It could be a little warmer. I think that the windows and exploring the different sizes with what you have here, I think it's a good combination of, you know, the modern element with mixing what you had before. But I think that's it for now, because I'm assuming that you're still waiting for planning board approval, right?
We had a really good meeting with them last time, and I think we're expecting a resolution at the next meeting.
Okay, all right. Yeah. Okay. I think that it's a really good looking building. Thank you.
Thank you.
I love it. I think it's great. I think the modernist appearance of the building is the way to go. I love the cantilevered bays. I think that's a really nice touch. The vertical window element over the stairwell is great as well. the color scheme, I'm not big into the multicolored facade, but I think the colors are close enough in value and shade that I think it's going to work. And I kind of like the gray cold appearance. That's just my personal preference. And I like that it's this unified singular form because in previous iterations, they were trying to separate 3 different elements. This is more of a singular form, which is appropriate because it's a single building. And I like that. I think it's great.
I agree with Dippy on the bays. I think the bays at the side really do help the side facades, which were very flat last time we looked at it. I have one question about the larger windows that go into the elevator lobby at the entrance. And I'm wondering if those windows want to almost wrap the corner and create, because you have the windows and then you have a side window. And I'm wondering if that assembly wants to be joined and create more of a lantern on that position.
I'm sorry, that was the intention, actually. And this corner here, I'm sorry, I'm sketching over it. I don't know if you can see. It's supposed to be dark. So this reads as a corner element, yes. So you see this window here is the same as this window here. No, I'm sorry. So this should be dark. This corner should be part of the trim. So this reads as a corner element.
Okay.
We'll make sure we change that.
But I think it looks really good. I think it's a much more interesting facade than the previous rendition.
Thanks.
So, yeah, I'd agree with my fellow board members on it's much more interesting. I do think I like the new facade changes. I still have the same questions from the last time we saw the previous iteration, and that's surrounding the necessity for the bulkhead and what looks to be something a little foreign to the middle and not 100% necessary, other than obviously an amenitized roof deck is a nice thing to have, but not a have to have, given where this sits. And I'm also still have the same concern about the HVAC units and where those sit for these in terms of all the fans and everything else that go with this. Because while this looks very, very nice, where those sit in proximity to the other structures or the neighbors, as well as sight lines at the roof, is something that I'm still concerned about.
I'd like to respond to that because I think if you look at our roof plan over here, we really try to minimize the bulkhead for the stair. And I think we've decided that the units probably would be best up here than hanging on a wall visible to neighbors. And we want access to the roof for a variety of reasons, but we actually did not bring the elevator up there. The elevator ends at the 2nd floor. So these units, the duplexes, have their own individual stairs to the top floor, and they could be, and then they have a railing around it. So they could be an upper roof deck, but it could also be for the air condensers. And we also took the stair and we pushed it back. And that's because when we had the stair in the front and on the lower levels, you'll see the stair is in the front of the building, the main stair. It really stood out too much. It really became like a tower. So we have gone out of our way to push it back and make it pretty minimal. So it's only, so I just don't know if you can tell by looking at the elevations how far back that is. I have that old 3D view, even though it doesn't reflect the current design, just to show you where these are. And you would see them, but they are just the size of the stair and they're sort of pushed back to the middle of the building.
Yeah, I understood. I appreciate trying to minimize them as much as possible, especially when it comes down to the sight line. think conceptually, I still have issue with just the roof deck in its entirety in terms of access. Obviously, you want to be able to give views and be able to use that, but it's also the only, if I'm not mistaken, the only house on that entire street facing that same view that has an amenitized roof deck for what would be those views. So I don't know that I am of the opinion that it's in context with the rest of that streetscape. While I know you would want to have it and understand why it would be an amenity for tenants, I just don't know that I really care for it personally.
All right, so thank you all for the comments. I just want to say a few things that are related to the articulation of the front facade mainly, and it's almost there. The one thing that is still is not quite, doesn't quite work for me is the long window and the canopy. And it might be an issue that maybe the canopy should be a little larger, maybe covering the steps that they have in the side. So tying the vertical element with an horizontal element would kind of balance the facade. Because I'm trying to see the main facade, then there is a recess, and then there is a setback in the back. So if you isolate that facade only, it's kind of the long element, it kind of unbalanced in the middle, and it's very, I think it's an issue of working with the two long elements, the vertical and the canopy, and I will suggest also, if you can, I would say tie the canopy with the trellis on the top. Maybe the canopy on the ground floor should have this soft trellis cedar softness, which will maybe tie to the top of the building with the bottom and the bottom, and make it a little bit more I don't know, soften the grayish the front facade. That could work. I don't know. I'm not sure. But it will be definitely, start to tie the elements of the facade. I agree with Dale's comment on the lantern idea. I think it could be very nice if the entire element of the corner glows.
Are you talking about the bays, like coming out?
Just wrapping the corner.
Okay.
The window in the center.
Okay.
The window, yeah, the window, the two windows on the corner that wrap around could be a very nice element, and will definitely work with the elevation nicely. And let's say the canopy and the trellis and the tying the building together. But all these comments are suggestions, as always. And I will like very much to encourage you also to work on the landscaping on the front of the building. Rob, would you like to make comments?
If I can, yeah.
Yes, of course.
I'm Rob Lane, I'm on the planning board. It's good to see everyone, and I actually agree with everyone's comments. Christina, I guess I also feel like we're really close here, but there are kind of two things I'd like to talk about, which is if you go back to the superseded UB, because even though it's superseded, it's the easiest way for me to point out what I want to point out.
I'm sorry. I have a hard time hearing you. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. It wasn't the. I'm basically saying that I agree with the board here, and I really like it. But could you go to the 3D view, even though it's superseded, because it shows two issues that I think are worth addressing. So one is these are now these kind of corner windows, right? As Dale pointed out, right? These are going to make the turn here, which I think is really great. But I think the same thing, I think the lobby should, that same kind of angled lantern thing or whatever Dale called it, should come down to the lobby, and the lobby should be also as glazed and as lit as possible, so that that same look of the corner glass comes all the way down and somehow engages with the lobby. And then the other thing that to me is weird is the cornice, for two reasons. Number one, it's you said this building is a kind of a blend of kind of modern and traditional, but the truth is it's pretty much, a kind of a retro modern everywhere, except for that cornice, which does not, feels to me anyway, like it's from a different architecture. But the real problem I have with it, if you go back to the 3D view, is that it wraps around, the whole idea that we've been struggling with, and which I think you've done, is that the idea is there's a part A to the building and a part B, right? That's one of the things that's in the design guidelines. And you've kind of done that by setting it back and changing the fenestration. But then you contradict it by taking the same cornice and wrapping it around at exactly the same height in exactly the same style. And so what I would suggest is that somehow this turns and ends here, and this top is treated somehow in a somewhat different way, or it's a slightly different elevation or something to make.
Just a parapet.
Sorry?
Just a parapet. Just a parapet.
Yeah, maybe it's just a parapet, maybe that piece is just a parapet, but it's sort of like, because you're working hard, which we appreciate, to do this kind of big A, small b read, but then it's contradicted by the cornice. So I would just ask that you sort of consider if there's a way of, making that more apparent and not having that element kind of homogenize it again after going to all this trouble to make this A-B reading.
Mhm. Well, I'd like to respond to that. Let me take one thing at a time. I think, well, first of all, the only reason why we didn't bring the glass all the way down is because of the driveway there. It didn't feel right to have the glass turn the corner down there when that glass is right up against the driveway. So we did think about that, and maybe we go back to that, but it just doesn't seem appropriate. And about the parapet, I've actually done a lot of buildings that have modern elements and some traditional elements. And I have, based on my experience, and I've studied a lot of towns like Kingston and just towns that I think are beautiful, Beacon. And I think even though you can have a building that has some elements of traditional, like the cornice or the little overhang parapet at the top, and some that are modern, I still don't, sometimes in a neighborhood like this, I don't want to leave go of a cornice, because it just seems like when you see a building without it, this is a very simple cornice. It's just a little overhang with a band. So it's very simple, it's really simple, but it seems like it feels like it needs to have that, to have a cap to the building, which is so common on the older buildings in the area. And I did think about the facade A, facade B idea, and we did look at different cornices, and it just seems like these are two parts of a whole building. So it's not like we're trying to design a front facade that's totally different than that secondary facade. They still are part of one building. And I have a design without that cornice wrapping all around, and I felt like it seemed like it was missing. It was one of those elements that I felt like should tie the top of that parapet all the way around the building, even though we're changing the shades of color. And actually, there are designs I've done that are similar to this. And one is the townhouses on Ridge Street in Hastings, where it has a very simple cornice, very modern treatment of the windows, but and it has different shades of color. And somehow you have this variation on themes, but you still have this sort of sense that it is all part of one whole. So that is the thinking that I put into this.
Can I walk to the front because I like the idea that I can point at the drawing? Miss the days of the paper. So thank you. I missed the point. I think I missed your comment. I don't know, but how did I miss it? Because this is almost called for, and I understand that it bringing the glass all the way down to the driveway might not be the best idea, but you can stop it, like over the curb and convert this entire thing into an event, an entry event, which would be very successful. But it's again a suggestion. If we do that, which makes this entire element, right? This entire element read as a volume, then the composition of the entryway, which is basically this element, will be 1, 2, and maybe 3. But this is as a solid, then works. If we have 1, 2, the entryway with these 3, then these 3 items needs to work together in a better composition. I think that if you go by the longest thing, is the problem is solved. If you have to work, if you insist on working on these 3 elements, maybe this has to be like, I don't know, maybe from there, it's just a little detail and using like a relationship to those 2 things might start putting everything together. And I agree, the decision of a cornice or no cornice, it's the architect's decision, I think. But this cornice doesn't have to be the same as this. Just
exactly the same.
yeah, or just bringing it lower, higher. I think making it like into one consistent line, datum. I think it's contradictory to the idea of separating. Let's say yes to cornice, but they have to be different. That's the other 2 points.
I appreciate your comments. Thank you. I'll give them some thought.
If I may chime in for a minute. On the cornice issue, I actually don't agree with changing it or making it up and down. I think it'll look untidy. The fact that it's already set back, back and front creates a shadow line, which is not apparent on this drawing. I personally would leave it as it is, and I like the idea of a cornice because it sort of gives it a finish to what's, forward of that 4th floor setback. And the second comment I have is totally agree with Christina about not doing corner windows, which would look out onto the driveway. You put in corner windows in a building where you're looking out at something that has value to it, and a driveway certainly wouldn't have value. So I think on both those elements, I would go with the architect. That's just my, my 2 cents.
Which again, and this is all part of our discussions, but not, I think the building what's the process, John, in terms of what are we doing tonight? We're going for a resolution?
Or you continue it either. I mean, it's got to go back to planning board anyway, so it's a referral back to planning board.
My question to you, Christina, is do you see any of what we are saying as making sense for you to change, or because we might, if you plan any changes based on what we discussed, we can approve it on the next meeting and incorporate all the proper, discussions. Or
if just before, I just want to weigh in real quick on the cornice issue. I actually agree with Dipti, and I think it's okay as it is.
My sense is I will encourage Christina to reconsider, but it's not breaking. It's not a deal breaker.
Okay.
And just to add context to my comments, Christina, a little bit further,
Yes.
I'd like to get to a path where I can get my head wrapped around the amenity terrace and the amenity deck or amenity rooftop. But I would need to understand where equipment's being laid out and the use and where whatever proposed furniture would be up there, given the sight lines, for me to feel more comfortable. So if that's where my head is at, because I understand it adds value to the building and adds value for the tenants, but I would ask that you can further consider what actually is going to live up there, where it's going to live, and where if there is any proposed furniture for tenant use or other things, where is it going to be stored, et cetera, et cetera. Because those are all concerns that I have from just a sightline perspective as well.
I will, always defend the idea of a roof terrace and an enjoyable amenity, and I don't think it's a deterrent from any contextual issue. It's true. It's probably the first building that will have amenities on the roof. But this is a good thing.
If it's maintained, properly kept, and everything looks the way it should from the street, I would agree with you.
But the people that are
How do you
going to
ensure
live,
that happens?
I think the socioeconomic aspect of whoever is going to live on the penthouse.
Well, the penthouse has their own terraces that overlook the river from their nice setback and space. This is an amenitized roof deck.
It's an amenitized roof deck, but
It's not
it's in a building that it's going to be able to afford.
Would it help if that structure were more light permeable?
Wood.
Because right now it's just a big mass, and
Yeah,
maybe if there
I
were some
agree with
windows
that.
in it or glazing that also brought light into the stairwell, it might be a nice
I
opportunity.
think that could be an opportunity.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, the building's better without the bulkhead. I mean, that's
100%.
100% true.
But we need the road.
But you need the bulkhead if you want the rooftop amenity, and I understand wanting to provide that as, kind of an incentive. So, I mean, I could live with it, but might prefer something maybe a little less solid.
It's a bug.
Yeah, in the middle of a really nicely designed building.
It's a bug. Doesn't bother me. I think it adds to this defines the center of the building. If design wise, doesn't bother me at all.
If it didn't have a sight line from the street, I have the exact same opinion, but it does.
Yeah, but the building, look at the building in the context of the street. It's not.
Clad it in wood. I don't care. Just make it look nicer.
And that might actually be an opportunity. I really liked Ayer's comment about maybe textural continuity, like maybe a wooden overhang over the front doorway, and then the trellises on the using the same material for the trellises, and maybe incorporating that in the bulkhead as well. I don't know. I'm just.
I just want to make a comment. You really are hardly going to see the bulkheads from the street, and you'd be surprised the amount of activity and life that are on roofs in these villages. Once I've worked on a lot of buildings in the river towns, especially in Hastings. You would think there are no decks on these roofs, especially in the downtown, but you go up there and it's amazing the life that's up there, and the little staircases and the bulkheads. There's so many of them. So, I don't know if there's going to be a view looking down at this building, but it's not uncommon to have stair bulkheads going up to roof decks in the river towns. Maybe not on this street, but I think it's a really nice opportunity that we certainly wouldn't want to take away. And I don't think it really has a lot of aesthetic impact on the building. So I don't think we'd be inclined to remove it, that's for sure.
My suggestion, honestly, was giving you a path for one board member, and that's me, to feel better about the bulkhead and its treatment.
Okay.
So you can take that for what it's worth and hope you have more than 3 people here when you come back to vote. But that's your choice.
My problem is I like the Vulcan.
Okay, we're allowed to disagree.
Yeah.
That's why we have a board,
Of course.
right?
One thing I also want to mention that this project has been going on for a long time. So I'd like to know is the possibility that we could have a vote tonight.
Yeah.
Just because our clients feel that they've had different architects, it's gone on a long time, and I really do appreciate your comments and we'll take them into consideration. But I think they're pretty minor and like to know if you'd be.
The only comment, and this is going back a while, that for me it's at least if you care to give it a serious consideration on the entryway treatment and put some thought future in terms of my comments regarding the what do you call it, collective space, which is from the area of the stone wall to the front facade. That area really needs a little care and design, the same design that you're capable of doing, like you showed us so many times. So those are the and landscaping and you know, putting some care. Otherwise, and on the other, including the cornice or our arguments on the bulkheads, on all the corner windows, I think everything is ready for me to recommend it for approval. I think that please look again at the front elevation, the comments that I was making, because I think it's very close to be very successful, and it needs an extra tweak. But I understand that this project is being through a long process, and I'm glad that this was the first to initiate like a rethinking of the character of the Palisades. It's been a long process for the applicant. It's been a long process for the boards, and your listening to the guidelines prove that this is a successful massing. It works nicely in the street, and for that I commend it for making moving to make a recommendation for approval. And I hope you take all the comments
With no conditions.
With no conditions. There is, you know, I understand that this project will evolve, you know, over time. And that's my take. Anybody would like to second this? I would second it. All seconds. Okay. Deepti?
I approve.
Nay.
Okay. So for approval, Sana, and one objection.
Thank you.
Okay.
I will think of those small details for the front facade. I really appreciate your comments. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. And
Thanks so much.
thank you. And
Have a
this
good
is,
evening. Appreciate all the thought you put into this. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Good night.
We have, night. This is, we are making a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting. Seconds. Brendan seconds. We agree on that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, guys. It's
How you
been fun.
How are you?
I see you guys later. I'm gonna pick up my son.
We're doing well. We're doing well in our new home.
Yeah.